So we're coming to the end of January, and so it's time just to check in with seedling progress. So almost all of these seedlings were sown in January. There are a few, some of the brassicas, you'll see it on the overlaid text, that were sown back in December. So those are things like the Calabrese marathon and the sprouts that I'm growing for leaves and the cauliflowers and things like that. But basically pretty much everything else was sown sometime through January. So generally I've done two big sowings, so one at the beginning of January, one at the middle, and yeah, so I'm just getting ready to complete my planning for February, and there'll be another video that covers all the sowings that I'm doing in February, and that's probably the most important one as well, because the ones that I did in January, most of those have been supplemented with grow lights. It's a little bit too dingy in January to sow much without grow lights, but it's certainly, February, by the middle of February, light levels are starting to pick up, and there's lots and lots of stuff that you can start to sow without grow lights then. And then if you're interested in any of the specific varieties that I've shown, then you can take a look at my sowing log, and this is part of my allotment management database. Again, information on that is in the description, and you can use it yourself. And basically all the varieties are covered here: name of the variety, sowing date, germination date, when I'm planning to harvest it, how many seeds per module, how many days under lights, where I sowed it, where I'm planning to plant it, and all of that. So I'm actually looking at this on my phone, but there's a web version of it and a tablet version of it, and all of this information is published in my monthly sowing and growing blog post and video. So that's coming on the 1st of February for everything I'm doing in February, and obviously there's one which I'll link in the description actually for everything that I sowed in January. So that's the seed sowing database. So we'll start with the chili peppers, and they're all doing really nicely. This is exactly what I want to see at this time of year. I don't want them to be any bigger than this, otherwise I just won't have space for them all. And that is 80% of the chili peppers I'm growing, so I'm not growing a huge number. I've just got a few to grow in February, sow in February. And then here, this is a quarter of my sweet peppers, and again they're growing really nicely. They've all been transplanted into these pots, and all of these will need transplanting again, probably about April time I should think. But they're all growing nicely, lots of true leaves coming on all of them now, so I'm very happy about those. This is my first batch of Tokyo Cross turnips. They do really well multi-sown, and they're going to get planted out into the polytunnel or a coal frame or a low tunnel. I don't really plan where I'm going to put things like turnips, they just get squeezed in wherever there's a gap. And there's some cherry bell, I think, radishes at the back, and French breakfast radishes. I like to grow two different varieties in the tray because the cherry ones come a bit earlier than the French breakfast, and so you get a little bit of a succession going. They're a bit warm in here really in the conservatory, and hence the slight legginess, but it doesn't really matter with radishes, you just plant them down deep and they're just fine. Beetroot here just came up a couple of days ago, just starting to put on a bit of leaf. These are just early beetroot, and again these are going to go in the polytunnel. And it's a bit slightly dicey doing beetroot quite so early, because there is a risk that they'll bolt if the weather conditions aren't quite right, but these are bolt hardy, and so we'll see how they do. First batch of spinach. We've got a lot of spinach at the moment in the polytunnel and in coal frames, and so we're in no rush really to get spinach, but these are going to go under a little cloche sometime in February. Should be nice. These are red kitten. And we'll take a look at all these onions. So the first tray is semaine. That's a kind of salad onion that won't be ready until August. So it grows to maturity, it bulbs, but it's a nice long thin sweet onion. And then we've got Bedfordshire Champion and Ailsa Craig, and both of those are multi-sown. They've come up nicely, quite pleased with those. And then we've got Zebrun shallots. It looks at the moment like a slightly patchy germination, but I'm fairly confident that the other cells will come up because these are only a couple of days old now. These. So up on my little grow shelf, I've got my next batch of potatoes. These are Swift, and they'll get potted up very soon. Got some really lovely Brussels sprouts here to be planted out next week. These are just for leaves. And then I've got some, these are Moish 2 peas, Oregon sugar pod, and they're going to get planted out next week under a low tunnel. And then down here we've got some sugar snaps, and they've not germinated quite as well, so I've just sown another batch just so I've got enough. But they're doing alright. And I've got my Red Baron and Paris Silver Skin, again multi-sown onions. Germination's really great. These are just on a sunny windowsill, and you have to keep turn them every day, not too bad. And I've just started chitting my first earlies, and so these are Aaron Pilot. These are Swift, and I've got a few Charlottes as well, second earlies starting to chit. And I'm in no rush though, because I've got quite a lot of tubs that are already planted. So I think I've got eight tubs, which will see me all the way through April and May. So these are going to be harvested late May and June. And these are my late February sowings. So I've got some Zebrun here from 2 different seed packets, some White Lisbon spring onions, another tray of Red Baron, and my summer leeks. And then in my cold grow light area in the workshop, I'll show you what we've got in here. None of this is heated, except by the grow lights themselves. So we've got some nice lettuces coming on beautifully. Smile, Grenoble Red, Bijou, Luini, more Grenoble Red, Canasta, and some more Luini. And that's all the lettuces that I'm going to need for early spring. And they're going to go under cold frames on the allotment. And then I've got some Amaze lettuces. They're the only hearting lettuces that I grow at this time of year. A beautiful red, kind of like a little gem. And then just another experiment in pricking out individual onions. Again, not to be repeated. And then these are my early kales. Black Magic, Dazzling Blue. These are some more Dazzling Blue, and these are just a Carvalho Nero. So all of these are in the Tuscan kale kind of family, and I just pricked these out, and so they're just starting to show their true leaves. And that's fine, because I don't actually want these until March. That's when I plant my early kales out, and in March then I sow my main crop, summer kales, and then a bit later on I sow my winter kales. And then finally at home, we've just got my first cucumbers coming up. There's another one coming up here. Don't do very many at this time of year. And that's one of my potatoes in pots, and everything else is on the allotment, hardening off. So I'm in the Polytunnel now, and here's my second succession of Calabrese marathon, waiting to be planted out in a few weeks' time, and my second succession of cauliflowers also waiting to be planted out. And these are going to go, some of them are going in the Polytunnel and some of them are going in a deep coal frame. My first batch of early potatoes are sitting there under fleece, just hardening off basically, because they've been in the conservatory for a while, so just giving them a little bit of extra protection. And we are actually going to have a frost sometime, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night, so they need a double layer of fleece to protect them. We've got loads of overwintered carrots, various different varieties, to see which ones do best. And then the first succession of the Calabrese planted in the polytunnel beds. And then these little cuttings, perennial kale cuttings, to be planted out in March. And then quite a few little lettuces, 4 beds like this, to start harvesting sometime in February. So if you're interested in how I sow my seeds, you look in the basics section of my little ebook, which is linked in the description below, and pick the sowing section, and you'll see, there's videos on how I sow seeds, compost that I use, more examples of how I sow different types of seeds, information on the seed packet management database that I created that you can use for free, and all the stuff, labels, pens, seed trays, module trays, all the different sizes, plant pots, links as to where to get them, how I would do the watering, use of grow lights. There is a separate chapter on grow lights as well that's linked just here. How I test my seeds, timings, soaking seeds, chitting seeds, pricking out, and all of that. And then, as you saw, lots of those little seedlings are very close to planting out. And so again, in my little ebook, look in the basics section, and there's a chapter on planting out. And that goes through, when to plant out, planting sizes, tray sizes that I use for different types of seedlings, preparing the ground, how to make holes, planting, how deep to plant various different things, watering, etc. And all of these sections in the ebook are all improving over time, and a lot of them are improving in response to your questions. So please ask as many questions as you want, and if I can answer them, then I'll probably either make a video or write a section in the ebook, or both, as the best way to do the answering nowadays. So, hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen, Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.